In this video, we're going to describe what a life cycle assessment is and explain why they are carried out. We're then going to evaluate a product using a life cycle assessment. A life cycle assessment assesses the environmental impact of the entire life cycle of a product, and it's made up of 4 stages. Getting the raw materials, manufacturing the product and the packaging, how the product is used, and then how the product is disposed of. Extracting the raw materials needed for a product can damage the environment. For example, lots of energy might be required to extract the materials. As this energy will come from a fossil fuel, it will cause pollution, for example through the release of greenhouse gases causing global warming. Transporting and then processing those raw materials will also require a lot of energy. And again, it's important to remember every time we talk about the use of energy, it's probably going to come from a fossil fuel. This means it's going to release CO2 when it's burnt, and this will ultimately cause global warming. Making the products and the packaging can also require large amounts of energy, and like we've looked at, this can also cause pollution. The chemical reactions that make compounds from raw materials can also produce waste. In some cases, this could be hazardous or toxic, requiring specialist disposal. Some products can also damage the environment through the way they're used. You also need to consider how long can the product be used for. So for example, even though a product might require a lot of energy and raw materials to produce, it could last a very long time. Therefore, it might actually use less energy material over the long term. So an example of this, a mobile phone which you could use for 10 years, even if it required more energy than a phone that you would maybe use for 2 years, it could still be better over the long run. Because rather than replacing your phone 5 times over that 10-year period, you wouldn't need to replace it at all. Whenever a product is no longer needed, it will be disposed of, and this means we're going to need to use energy to transport it to landfill. And we've already looked at the consequences of using energy in the life cycle of a product. Waste in a landfill can take up a lot of space. Landfill waste can also pollute nearby water sources. If the product is biodegradable, it'll only stay in landfill a short amount of time before it breaks down. However, if it is non-biodegradable waste, it could take thousands of years to break down. Sometimes we can burn the waste to provide energy. However, burning the waste will cause pollution, it will release greenhouse gases, which we know will cause global warming. Some products can be reused or recycled, so this will reduce the amount of waste produced. So you've got a variety of factors you need to consider in the product disposal stage of a life cycle assessment. We're now going to look at a worked example. So we're going to carry out a life cycle assessment for which of these 3 cars, A, B or C, should be produced by a company. We're going to look at the CO2 emissions, the waste solid produced, the water produced, and the lifespan of the product. Let's look at car A first. Out of the 3, it has the least amount of CO2 produced. It has the second highest waste produced in terms of the waste solid and the amount of water used, and it has the shortest lifespan. Car B releases more carbon dioxide than car A. However, it produces much less waste solid out of all three cars, and it has the longest lifespan. Car C has the most carbon dioxide emissions, it produces the most amount of waste, and it only has a slightly longer lifespan than Car A. So we're saying that Car B is the best one out of the three. It has the lowest amount of waste produced, it uses the least amount of water in its production, and it has the longest lifespan. Now, even though it does produce more carbon dioxide than Car A, it's only slightly more, it's only 4,000 kilograms more, and it's better in the other two factors. So for these kind of questions, you do have to come to a judgment. So we're saying on the balance of all the four factors we've considered, Car B is the best overall, even though it's not the individual best in each category. So you've got to come to your own judgment in these kind of questions.